Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well. So in the previous tutorial we learned how to create our own custom functions. Those functions allow the GPT models to interact with systems that we build ourselves. Today we're looking at OpenAI's built-in tools, and more specifically we're looking at the web search function. So very simply, this is how you use the web search function. This is the most basic code you'd need to get your GPT model to interact with the internet. So we import our libraries, we load our API keys. If you don't know how to set up your OpenAI API account and how to set up an environment, I have a previous tutorial which will be linked in the description. So if you don't know how to do any of that, do watch that video and return to this one. However, if you're already at that step, you load in your API keys, and then we define here how we call OpenAI's GPT model. We're calling 5.5. We're saying that this model has access to OpenAI's Web Search Tool. Our input we've hard-coded, but for example, if you wanted to have the user dynamically fill what the input is or the query for the model, you could do something like user input equals input, what would you like to know? And then we would just simply put the input equal to that variable that we just defined. There we go. So then if we run this code, there we go, it's asking the question, and I can ask it a question which would require the GPT model to search for data outside of its training data set. So I might ask, actually I'll just go with the API's example. Give me a positive news story from today, please. Hit enter. Now the GPT model is searching the internet and it's going to return an answer. So apparently 5 villagers were rescued after being trapped for more than a week in flooded caves in Laos. Yeah, that news story sounds very familiar. Okay, so that's how we do it. Now there are some important additional things for you to know. So I just put the simple use case right at the start of the tutorial for those of you that just wanted a quick answer. But for those of you who want a bit more depth and understanding, I'm going to explain some useful things to know around the web search function and how tools work in general with OpenAI. So the web search function that we just used is a tool. And in a previous tutorial, we looked at writing our own functions, and I gave you this template here. Functions are also a tool. So in the previous tutorial, we wrote our own code, and then we defined to the AI model how it can run our own code to enhance its responses and to trigger useful actions. But OpenAI also has some built-in tools, which are kind of like our own functions, but OpenAI has already gone to the trouble of writing them for us and defining to the model how to use those tools. Again, if you don't know how to write your own custom functions and to get the AI model to execute them, it would be useful to watch my previous video in this series, which is also linked in the description. So the main key difference between these is when we write our own function, we have to define to the AI model when to use it and what our function does. And then if the AI model decides that it wants to use our function, it basically makes a request to our code to execute the function. We then run the function locally on our computer or on your server, and then we return the outputs from our function back to the AI model, which then constructs its final response. OpenAI's built-in tools operate slightly differently. So we define to the AI model that it can use any one of the built-in tools provided by OpenAI. But this time, when the AI model decides that it wants to use one of OpenAI's built-in tools, it executes the command on OpenAI servers. And also, we don't have to define in the same way how the AI model should use that function because it already knows how to. It's been done by OpenAI. So at the end of this tutorial, I'm going to give you this code template, which is the template from last week's tutorial to create your own functions and then define to the AI how to use them. So in this template, you write your functions here. You define to the AI how to use the functions here. Don't worry about any of this. It's covered in the last video in the description. And then I'm also going to give you this OpenAI tool builder. So with this tool builder, if you had your own function that you wanted to write, you would click add new function and you would describe what it does and you would add parameters and define it here. However, for the sake of this tutorial, we are only interested in using the web search function. So we simply say add the built-in web search tool, and now it defines here in this code block to the AI model that it can use the web search tool. Now, there are some additional search parameters that we can configure, which I'm going to go through now. So we can change the search context size. This is basically how much text from the web pages that the AI model has researched is used in the AI model's response. So we can go for default, which I believe is just medium actually. You can say low, medium, high, and you can see that it's been updated here in the search context size here. You can then define allowed domains. So if you want the AI model to only search from specific websites, you can do so there. You might want to put your own website here. So you might say only look at www.mywebsite.com or whatever. You can put any web page there. You could put a Wikipedia web page, you could put BBC News, whatever. You can also put blocked domains. So you can say, I don't want you to get your answers from Reddit or Wikipedia or whatever. You can define it here. Optionally, you can include search location. So you might be building an application where you have users from all over the world and you want to give search specific, location specific search results. So for example, the user might say, are there any good restaurants near me? Now, to give a good list of restaurants that are relevant to where the user is able to travel to or is within reach of the user, it would need to know the user's location. So you would define that here. You can say they're in Great Britain, sorry, it should be caps, they're in England, and in England they're in London, Bath, Cambridge, Oxford, whatever, any city. So then if the user were to ask, are there any good restaurants near me? The AI model would know, oh, okay, so I'm only searching for things within this area because that's most relevant to where the user would want to be looking for a place to eat, right? Small caveat with this, these are hard-coded parameters. So you're going to need to implement some kind of logic. Perhaps you have a user database already where it would fill the correct location data in these fields. So you'd want to replace these with variables instead of this written text. Unlike when the GPT models access our functions and it can dynamically fill different parameters, with the built-in tools, it's hard-coded instead. So it's not like the AI model would be able to fill in the user's location by itself. You would need your own logic to hard code those parameters in to this search query. Okay, great. Once you've defined the web search tool and any additional parameters that you want, you just want to copy this code block and paste it in the template here in tool definitions. And then if you have any of your own functions, you want to write them above. When we run this code, our conversational agent will be able to access the internet. So I can say, what's the latest news on the Iran war as that's going on whilst I'm recording this? And there we go. It's now returned its response. It's got the correct date. It is Sunday, the 31st of May at the time of recording. And it's given me the most recent information. Okay, and that is today's tutorial. Thank you for watching. Okay, now I'm going to selflessly promote myself. If you want access to the templates and tools that I showed you in today's tutorial, you can access them in my school community. It's free to join. What you're going to want to do is click on the Classroom tab, click on the OpenAI API course, and then there will be a lesson titled something along the lines of using the web search tool. There will be this YouTube video that you're watching now, and underneath will be the resources used in today's video. I would highly recommend that you join this community. I include loads of really useful templates and tools which will accelerate your building process. I'm constantly adding new lessons to teach you how to use the AI APIs, and there's a lot more to come in the future. But also, it's just a great place to connect with like-minded people. Whether you're an absolute beginner or perhaps someone a bit more experienced, it's a great place to connect, to network, and possibly find someone to sell your services to or to work with someone. The community is steadily growing. I've launched it only in the last month. We've got 7 members at the moment, but a lot of exciting stuff is coming, so I would 100% recommend that you join this community. But that's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.